kind of, you call them. You know, they were stolen people. And they came to this country, a lot of them are our ancestors. They had a pride about their hair. They wore their hair in their braids, their puffs. And what was happening is that they were looking at these beautiful black queens like the ones we guys see here in the room, and it was on. And I know we kind of joke about stuff, but just historically, that's where we were at, but in history of where we started off. And so it became a conversation like, well, it's too sexy. And then it became a thing of like, you can't show your hair. And then it became a time where it's like, okay, now I need you to straighten your hair. So they made chemicals so we can assimilate to look like them. So you know, we done went from being too sexy with your puffs, your locks, your braids. Who would have thought it was sexiness with all that? I'm sexy regardless, but regardless. But stay focused, stay focused. And then telling you to assimilate to using chemicals to now everybody's having a big chop. Who's went through the big chop? We'll talk about my big chop later. And now we're at the point where we know because of data, thank goodness, that these chemicals are hurting us. So we've gone from being too sexy to having to be covered, to having to simulate, to the big chop, to where we are right now.
Hillary, it's hard to know when to step in after that.
I know.
Okay, I would like to add what you were saying about indigenous hairstyles. Among the reasons that people wanted their hair covered and also chopped was because they often signified identity and helped people know what tribe or what ethnic group or what country or what region another was from. And part of slavery, the intention of it was to destroy our identity. And so hair conveyed messages. Hair, people would braid things into their hair for rice, different cowrie shells, and convey all sorts of messages as well. So I want to say that. I also want to call the name of Madam C.J. Walker. Madam Walker created the straightening comb. And so part of what we need to think about when we think about the history of African people in the Americas is for much of the time you're here, there was, and for many people there still is, a question of whether we were human beings. There's a question of whether we were, and many people still have the question, are we the same species as white people? Okay, so that was, and for many of these people who are rising up right now, that is still an active question. So I want you all to know that. And so our hair was evidence of different lack of humanity belonging to a different species. And so I mentioned earlier that from the Netflix documentary, Afro Sheen during the mid-1960s, during the Black is Beautiful, Black Power music movement. We had the Jerry curl around 1980. You look like you're mouthing something to me. Am I missing something? Oh. No, help me. Garrett Johnson made the first relaxer. Okay, I don't know this.
No, Garrett Morgan.
Morgan.
Okay, when? No, you caught me, thank you.
Well, I think many of us have seen how wearing natural hair has evolved even recently. I can, throughout my career, I've worn my hair in various styles, as many black women do, right? I've worn it long, I've worn it short, I've worn it very close cropped as a natural. Many years I wore it twisted. Now I got whatever this is going on as well. But I can remember when I practiced law, going to court with my hair twisted, and actually going to court with a colleague named Dennis LeConte. He wouldn't mind if I said his name. We worked together for about 25 years. And being in the courtroom with white judges who would never acknowledge my presence and always acknowledged him, and my name was on the door. And but I think it's much different today in terms of how we show up and being very authentic in terms of how we show up. But I can remember many years where I wasn't quite sure if I should do it. But that is never enough for me to make a decision about doing what others feel is comfortable. But really going into workplaces where I was not viewed as having a right to be there or viewed as invisible. And that's the type of involvement I think that we've seen. And thank goodness for you, Juanita, for championing the Crowns Act. And I want to thank you again for being that champion over years to make sure we can eliminate hair discrimination. Even though the bill has not passed, tell me how you see how people view natural hair across the state. Do you see a difference in how people look at hair discrimination in terms of how it's viewed in workplaces as well as in schools?
It happens to your children. There's a lot of parents that are in here. Until it happens to you at your job, and the lady who works the customer service here in the state of Ohio who got sent home for her first day of work being in grades, you didn't realize that you had no legal recourse here within the state of Ohio until it happens to you. And so many of us have been in spaces where they might have said something, but they didn't fire you. They might have talked about you, but they didn't fire you. But then some of us are not. And so this is going to be my 4th time introducing the Crown Act in the state of Ohio. My 4th time. It's a bipartisan bill. Right now, this bill is legalized in 27 states. We have not been able to bring it to the House floor on a federal level, but we brought it to the House floor 2 times at the state. Twice. I have it, you can clap me going to, I need a good clap. And I get emotional during this time period because, and I was talking to the ladies upstairs, because I don't know if in my time of being in the State House, because we do have term limits, that I will see this come to be a law in the state of Ohio. So I'm very concerned because I keep getting calls from parents about their kid getting sent home and there's no type of legal recourse. And the 131 people that I serve with, including myself, it's 132, they will pass it in the House but not pass it in the Senate. And we keep on electing people who do not value you. But you campaign for them, you give them money. A couple of y'all is on their finance reports. But they would be the same ones trying to knock this bill down. So I think we just have to really think about how that looks like for our state, that we are not electing people who really value us and see us, particularly when it comes to our laws within the state of Ohio.
And what can we do, Juanita, to support you when you introduce this bill so we can make sure that finally it's passed and becomes law?
You got to show up. I want to give a shout out, and I'm not a member, so I'm going to shout them out, but I'm not a member. We had the wonderful ladies of the Alpha Kappa Alpha who showed up, and ladies from National Negro Congress of Women who showed up to the State House, and so many other groups who showed up for a lobby day. And it got almost kind of contentious because they didn't realize how many of my colleagues did not value their appearance. And 2 of the sorority sisters got into it with one of my colleagues who ended up voting on my bill. They tried to kill my bill. And so you have to just show up, because when you go to someone that does not look like you, who's never represented anybody that looks like you, and they tell you, I have no value in that, and what your hairstyle is unprofessional. He told a whole black woman who was in her 70s. This woman is like, woman comes down there representing her sorority with her letters on. He told her, I don't think your hairstyle is professional. She went off. They called me, I was in my office, and I had to go to the 13th floor. He's Republican.
Of course.
And it's real like that, because he told her to her face, I don't think your hairstyle is professional. This was last year.
If I may, State Representative Greg is being very humble. I have reported every time she sponsored this bill, and she was very close last time. I was actually in Columbus when the people in Cleveland, double ACP sent buses to support, and she had bipartisan support on this, and she was close. We were very close, to passing the law, but it's still not law, and we'll have to go through this again. Because we do keep hearing these stories about hair discrimination, and it is very real. It's not going away, and people are very vocal about it now, and we have to do something about it. It exists.
I think Juanita told me that it's not even a law or an ordinance has not been passed in the city of Cleveland. So those of you who live in the city, make sure you reach out to your council person.
Asking why they won't pass the crown in the city of Cleveland. And I'm sorry for cutting off our moderator. My Speaker of the House pulls me this aside, and I think I even told Sia this too. He said, you can't even pass it in Cleveland. How you going to pass it across the state? Think about that.
So let's get busy in that respect. And Sia, you certainly have seen stories across the media. You've been involved in stories, and you've seen the shifting narrative in terms of how natural hair has been portrayed. Tell us about the difference that you see right now. Or is there much of a difference?
There is a difference now. I think that people are tired. I think that people want to be their authentic selves. I think that natural hair is professional hair. And when we see people in media that look like them, that's one of the first things people say to me. They're like, Sia, you look like us. You look like me, you look like my mom, you look like my sister. And, for years, in my industry, we had to conform and look a certain way, but, just one day I'd gotten far enough that I felt like, you know what, I'm not going to do that no more. I'm going to just show up the way I want to show up, and that's what I do. So, I'm grateful to, it's not anything I take for granted. I know it's not that way for everyone. But so I'm blessed. I'm blessed for that, and I'm grateful every day for it. Because I'm not sure if I would be able. Not that there's anything wrong. I've worn protective styles over the years. There's nothing wrong with it. But that's just, I don't want anyone to tell me that I'm not a certain way because I have to do this or I have to do that. So I think we need to continue the conversations. By being honest. We need forums like this. I can't tell you how many times I meet people and they tell me their natural hair story, or they tell me, something, terrible that happened to them. I mean, this story we're hearing from Representative Brett about, can you imagine somebody in the State House telling somebody that they're not professional because of their hairstyle? An educated woman. So it's important that we keep these conversations going. We have to speak up.
Well, we certainly know that we're seeing more of natural hair. It's much more visible because of social media, influencers, because of what we see in film or TV. Tell me what you all see, Jason. Do you think it's much more accepted through society and now considered more professional in the people that you service every day?
I think it is more, it's starting to become more of a trend, and not only as being the trend, a couple of people that actually are deciding to grow their hair after getting taper fades or keeping low haircuts, or even sometimes as people just want to, as kids, as when I was young, we used to always get bald fades and stuff like that, keep the waves together and stuff like that, right? But growing your hair is very powerful, and I think what it is, a lot of people are picking up on it. Not, like I said, not only a trend, it's more so they get the experience of when they're growing their hair, the changes they have in their lives. Especially when it comes to locks, when it comes to braids, any type of long hair that you may have, from froze to braids to locks. It's almost like that's your intuition. It helps you with the intuition in the room. Your hair will actually let you know the energy in the room. And it actually, it seems like the more that you grow your hair, we speak from my experience when we seeing other clients as well over the years that starting to grow their hair now. It's more so it's helping them also understand the type of energy that they're receiving, and the knowledge and the intuition that they're receiving just from them simply growing their hair. For instance, a couple of kids that I cut that have been cut for years, they always got ball fades. They want the designs and everything. But when they start growing their hair, they also start understanding and doing their own research on what is hair and how they feel the energy within themselves by them just simply growing their hair. But they also sometimes, as many people don't understand the real meaning of what you got to have clean hair as well. So if you put a lot of toxics, you put a lot of chemicals, I know back in the day in history or with hair, you know, the berries, the strawberries that you used to wash your hair with, that was something of a natural resource from the earth, right? Well, just like the sun is a natural resource, something that helps all of us, especially as blacks with our hair, to charge. The longer your hair is, the more that your hair holds the energy that you get charged from the sun. So as what I've learned so far, just from the industry of people are now starting to grow their hair on social media, not only is this is a trend, you get people that cross over from a trend to now they're accepting it as it's not only that, it's a lifestyle. It's more important than just having long hair, looking good in a picture, or just saying, hey, I got locks now because everybody else got it. Because the ones that doesn't have it anymore are the ones that just decides to cut it because they feel the trend has died. And what I can say is having your hair, whether if it's locks, braids, froze, anything of that nature, as long as your hair is long, it's a lot more that you can get from it, just simply as not only the energy that you receive and that you produce out, what is the intuition that you receive too, just from your hair.
And Jeremiah, what are you saying out there with your clients?
First of all, thank you guys. I'm small potatoes compared to everybody else on this panel, but it's amazing how, you know, we live in an information age, we live in a social media age, we live in an Instagram age, so Facebook age, and so these niche populations of like having locks or having twists or braids or stuff like that, it's become so much more popular because it's more accepted now than what it was probably in the 60s, 70s, 80s. I wasn't born then, so I can't say. But increasing popularity just like allows people to see, you know, people like you in higher positions, judges. I have judge clients, I have nursing clients, I have doctor clients, and these people in these high positions that have locks and they love it and they enjoy it, and it's amazing. And for me, getting in the industry and being able to be involved in the industry is amazing because I've been able to have that benefit of the business of all these people that want to start their locks. And especially black women, and my wife's black, she has locks, but seeing black women embrace their natural hair and start locks and be okay with it and just be like, this is awesome, this is beautiful, it's so empowering because you can wake up, you can go about your business, and being proud of that. And seeing my wife, and just, you know, she's had locks just as long as I've had locks, and just seeing her just thrive and being proud of just being like, you know, I'm up, I'm ready to go, let's get the day started. It's such a beautiful thing. And I think the more that it becomes normalized, the natural hair, the business, the locks, all this, the Crown Act will be easy to pass because everybody in every industry will have natural hair, and that's a beautiful thing. So.
Well, we certainly have a right to have our natural hair just as everyone else, right? And we start to think about what our own personal journeys have been that have led us to wear our hair naturally. I can remember being much younger reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I don't know if you remember that scene when he's getting his hair processed and can't rinse his hair out in the sink and puts his head in the toilet. I mean, I remember that, and it still has an effect on me. And it affected me from the moment I read it about not keeping my hair relaxed, but moving much more into a natural state. Tell us about your own personal journey. Well, certainly with you, Jeremiah, and your locks and how you got there, and the rest of the panel. Please talk to us about your own personal journey to move into natural hair.
So the reason I got locks is I saw surfers and they had locks, so I thought they were cool. So that's, you know, that's the main reason I got locks. It wasn't anything, you know, a movement or anything like that. But having the locks and then going into the business, it allowed other people to be more comfortable with, you know, allowing me to do my hair and say, you know, okay, he has locks, so obviously he knows something about it. So
Speaking for me, I used to get That's again, I used to get bald fades a lot, tapers. I used to get haircuts, but as a kid, I always wanted to grow my hair, but I could never grow it because I just never had long hair. So if anybody that grows their hair for the first time, it's kind of hard on that first go around. It's like, you want to grow it, then stop, want to grow it, then stop. So what motivated me when my hair finally grew, I want to say about 5 years now, of locking. Ever since then, what motivated me to pretty much go in the natural hair stage is it's just pretty much I started feeling the energy that I was getting not only from having hair, but also less maintenance too. And for me, entering the barber industry before I actually started my locks, that kind of like helped with the energy, just what I bring with the kids and everybody, and motivate them to want to grow their locks too. So it's also an energy transfer too. And as far as I was producing now, it's almost like it made me as a vessel at the end of the day, just from simply as started by growing locks and entering the barber industry. So, still growing as we speak. So.
I've gone through 3 big chops. For how many people in this audience have gone through a big chop before? Okay. So somebody needs to understand the struggle. My last big chop was literally in the middle of the pandemic, and I couldn't get to my hairdresser. She was refusing to do anybody, and I don't blame her. And I sat at home, after I took my braids out, and I just cut all my hair off. And during the pandemic, for most of you guys probably didn't realize, I was wearing a wig for like the longest because I was bald. And it just never looked back, but I've done it 3 times. But I will tell you what was a turning moment for me when I decided to run for office. And I remember some black women who are elected, still are elected, was like, Renita, you need to make sure your hair is straightened. You need to make sure your hair looks a certain way. And they said that to me as well as some of my other black women colleagues. And so we fell into the line of having to have our hair straightened and doing a lot of moving or just running for office and even being elected. Initially, I was like, if my hair is not straightened, people are not going to be accepting. The worst part about that whole journey, I got that from white people who were telling other black people to tell the black girl, you need to straighten your hair. And so after a while, you get old, and you like, I just don't care what they think. So chop it, do it.